You have just finished making a very simple dinner. But before you can sit down, you still have to pick up vegetable scraps around the cutting board, wipe up the water under the sink, and deal with the bits of food left behind. None of these tasks is big enough to be called a real problem. But together, they make your home constantly call you back. That does not mean you lack discipline. It may simply mean that your current system allows trash, water, and household items to travel farther than they need to. Many Japanese-inspired home systems solve these small points of friction through very minor changes. Not a major renovation, not another cleaning session, just placing the right object in the right location so a small task can end before it turns into a larger one. The 15 ideas in this video are all based on 3 principles. Stop a problem where it begins. Use empty space without making the home feel more crowded, and leave everything ready for the next time you need it. You do not need to use every idea. One change that solves the right recurring problem can make your home easier to maintain every day. If you enjoy small systems that make a home easier to live in instead of simply making it look more perfect, subscribe to The Quiet Home. Every video here has one goal: to help your home support your life instead of constantly creating more work. The first idea begins at the cutting board in your kitchen. When you prepare a meal, onion skins, vegetable stems, eggshells, and small pieces of packaging usually get pushed into a corner. You keep working around them until there is almost no open space left on the cutting board. If the trash can is under the sink, you have to stop, open the cabinet, and bend down several times. If it is on the other side of the kitchen, you have to carry small scraps across the floor while your hands are still wet. Because that action is inconvenient, you delay it. A very small solution is to place an empty bowl next to the cutting board before you begin cooking. It does not need to be a specialized product. An old bowl, a food container, or a small tray you already own can do the job. As you prepare the food, everything you no longer need goes directly into the bowl with one motion. When you finish, you only need to carry the bowl to the trash can or compost bin once. The bowl does not make you a better cook. It simply creates a clear stopping point exactly where the waste appears. You can try this during your next meal. Before you take out the knife, place a bowl beside the cutting board and notice how many fewer times you need to stop. The same one motion principle also appears in another familiar object, the soap dispenser next to the sink. With a regular liquid soap dispenser, you usually have to pick up the bottle, squeeze out some soap, put the bottle down, add water, and then work the soap into a lather on the sponge. Because the amount is difficult to control, it is also easy to use more soap than necessary. A foaming soap dispenser completes part of that process for you. One press creates foam that is ready to use without tilting the bottle or estimating the amount by sight. If your current dispenser works well, you do not need to change it. But if the bottle often becomes slippery, leaves a ring of residue, or people in your household regularly use too much soap, a foaming dispenser may help keep the sink area neater. Choose a refillable model and use the soap solution according to the product instructions. Not every type of soap works with every pump. The value of this change is not the foam itself. The value is that a tool has already completed part of a repeated action for you. But reducing steps does not always mean adding a new device. Sometimes, you only need to change the shape of a tool you have used for years. Think about your vegetable peeler. A straight peeler can work well on long, flat surfaces. But when you peel potatoes, apples, or curved vegetables, you often have to rotate the food and keep changing the angle of your wrist. A Y-shaped peeler places the blade horizontally above the handle. For many people, this shape helps the blade follow the natural curve of the food and reduces the number of times they need to change angles. This is not a tool that belongs exclusively to Japanese kitchens, but it follows the same principle of removing unnecessary movement during food preparation. Not everyone prefers the same type of peeler, so do not buy an entire set just to experiment. Try one peeler for a few weeks. If it makes the task faster and easier to control, keep it somewhere easy to reach. If it does not need to take up space in your drawer. A small tool only deserves to stay when it truly removes a movement. That principle becomes even clearer when you deal with leftover food. Half an onion, half a lemon, or the remaining part of a cucumber is often covered with plastic wrap. You have to find the roll, pull out a piece, cut it, and then try to make the plastic stick around an uneven shape. The next day, the plastic is thrown away and the entire process begins again. Stretchable silicone covers or covers designed to fit the cut ends of fruits and vegetables can reduce that process to one motion. You place the cover over the cut surface and put the food in the refrigerator. When you need it again, you simply remove the cover, wash it, and reuse it. A small container with a lid is still a better choice for foods that may leak, have a strong smell, or have a shape that is difficult to cover. But for a few fruits and vegetables that you regularly use only partially, a reusable cover may be simpler than plastic wrap. Do not buy a large set filled with sizes you will never use. Look at your household's real habits. If you regularly have half a lemon and half an onion left over, you only need the sizes that fit those two items. A useful system does not try to prepare for every possible situation. It only supports the situations that actually repeat. The first 4 changes all reduce the number of times your hands need to stop. But there is still another type of small waste that often slips through the system: food particles that go directly into the sink. After washing vegetables, rinsing plates, or cleaning the cutting board, pieces of onion, grains of rice, and food scraps often collect around the drain. Without a clear collection point, you have to pick them up by hand or allow them to travel deeper into the drain, where you will have to deal with buildup and odors later. A properly fitted sink strainer creates a stopping point before the food enters the drain pipe. You still need to empty and wash the strainer. But instead of allowing small pieces to spread throughout the sink, the waste is concentrated in one visible location where it can be handled in a few seconds. Choose a strainer that fits the drain, does not slow the water too much, and can be lifted with one hand. If it has too many narrow openings that are difficult to clean, it may create a new problem. You can also use a small handheld strainer when preparing foods that create many small scraps, or when removing food residue from plates before rinsing them. The goal is not to buy another object. The goal is to stop waste from traveling farther than necessary. The first 5 changes have different shapes, but they all perform the same function. They shorten the distance between the moment a problem appears and the moment it is handled. Vegetable scraps do not have to wait on the cutting board. Soap does not need to be worked into a lather by hand. Partially used produce does not need a complicated wrapping process. Food scraps are stopped before they travel deeper into the sink. A home begins to demand less from you when small tasks are not allowed to move into the next stage. Once waste has been stopped where it appears, the next problem is finding the unused spaces inside your home. A kitchen cabinet can look full even when most of the space inside it is still empty air. You open the cabinet door and see one row of cups sitting on a shelf. There is enough open space above them for another layer of items, but because there is no second surface, that space cannot be used. You begin stacking cups on top of each other, or pushing less frequently used items toward the back. An undershelf basket uses this exact space. The frame slides onto the underside of an existing shelf, and the basket hangs below it without drilling holes or changing the cabinet. It can hold kitchen towels, food storage bags, container lids, or lightweight objects that usually end up stacked on top of each other. But the basket is only useful when the items remain visible and can be removed with one hand. If it blocks the objects below it or becomes a place to stuff rarely used items, you have not created more space. you have only created another layer of clutter. Try one basket in an area that regularly causes inconvenience before installing them throughout the house. Not every empty space needs to be filled. The goal is to make the things you already own easier to reach, not to make the home capable of holding more belongings. The same principle applies to kitchen counters. Toasters, blenders, rice cookers, and other small appliances are often left on the counter all the time. But even when they are not being used, they still collect dust, cooking oil, and small drops of water. After several days, the dust combines with the oil and forms a layer that is difficult to wipe away, especially around buttons and narrow openings. A simple solution is to cover appliances that are used less frequently with a lightweight cloth or a properly fitted cover. The important part is separating appliances that you use every day from those you only use occasionally. If you use your toaster every morning, removing and replacing the cover every day may create more friction. But if you only use your blender once or twice a week, a cover may help it stay cleaner and more ready to use. You do not necessarily need to buy a special cover. A clean, lightweight, washable towel can also do the job. Only cover an appliance after it has cooled completely, and always follow the manufacturer's safety instructions. If removing the cover is more annoying than cleaning the appliance, this solution does not match your habits. But for an appliance that is rarely used, a small protective layer can prevent an unnecessary cleaning task. The next idea also protects the next use, but instead of blocking dust, it limits the amount of air that reaches an ingredient. Some Japanese tea containers have two lids. The inner lid sits close to the opening and helps seal the contents. The outer lid adds another layer of protection and helps keep the rim of the container cleaner. This design is especially useful for loose-leaf tea, coffee, sesame seeds, shredded seaweed, or spices that are opened frequently but used in small amounts. The container cannot preserve the ingredient forever. Light, temperature, and humidity still matter, but it makes closing the ingredient properly after each use more consistent. There is no rubber band to remove. There is no bag opening that needs to be folded several times. There is no clip that disappears into a drawer. However, do not transfer everything in your kitchen into matching containers simply because they look attractive. Only transfer ingredients whose original packaging is difficult to close, easy to spill, or opened frequently. If the new container creates additional work through washing, labeling, and refilling, the original packaging may still be easier to maintain. A good storage solution should make the ingredient easier to use, not simply make the kitchen look more coordinated. But there is one area where adding a shelf or changing a container often does not help: the walls of a rented home. You need a place to hang towels, brushes, or cleaning tools, but you do not want to drill into tile or leave holes in the wall. Suction hooks with a lever or locking mechanism can provide a flexible solution on suitable surfaces. A regular suction hook is simply pressed against the wall. As air gradually enters, the grip becomes weaker. A model with a locking mechanism adds pressure after it is placed on the surface, which can help the suction remain more stable on glass or smooth tile. But the fact that drilling is not required does not mean you can hang anything from it. Follow the weight limit, clean the surface for installation, and avoid hanging anything heavy, breakable, or dangerous if it falls. These hooks work best for lightweight items that are used often, such as cleaning cloths, small squeegees, brushes, or mesh storage bags. A good hook does more than hold an object. It allows the item to be removed, used, and returned to its place without opening a cabinet or leaving it on a counter. If the hook constantly falls and forces you to check it every day, it is no longer a supportive system. It has become another task you need to remember. Some problems do not appear on open surfaces. They remain hidden inside enclosed spaces. You open a drawer filled with clean clothes and notice a slightly stale smell. The clothes are not dirty. They have simply been sitting in a closed space for too long, where there is very little airflow. A common reaction is to add a scented product, but fragrance can only cover an old smell for a limited amount of time. Some households place small bags containing bamboo charcoal, activated charcoal, or other odor control materials inside drawers and closets. These bags do not add a strong fragrance. They may simply help the enclosed space smell more neutral. But before adding a product, check the main cause. Were the clothes completely dry when they were put away? Is the drawer packed too tightly? Does the inside of the cabinet need to be cleaned or given more airflow? If the area shows signs of moisture or mold, a small bag will not solve the problem. The cause must be handled first. Sometimes the best solution is not adding an odor control bag. It is removing a stack of clothes that is blocking airflow and making the drawer difficult to open and close. If you could improve only one area first, comment K for kitchen or B for bathroom. One letter is enough. The 5 systems we just discussed all use spaces that homes often ignore: the area under a shelf, the surface of an appliance when it is not being used, the air inside a container, an empty section of wall, and the small spaces between clothes inside a drawer. But using empty space does not mean filling every available area. Before bringing a new organizing product into your home, ask 3 questions. Does this problem happen several times each week? Will the new item stay exactly where the problem appears? And will it remove an action, or will it simply become another object that must be stored, cleaned, and remembered? A home does not become easier to maintain because it contains more organizing accessories. It becomes easier to maintain when each accessory helps a task end faster. But the most frustrating empty space is not always inside a cabinet. Sometimes it is simply the very small gap between a wet towel and the wall behind it. In areas where water is present, storing an item neatly does not necessarily prepare it for the next use. That is why a good bathroom system does not only ask where an item will be placed, it also asks where the water will go after the item has been used. That question begins with a very simple object: a covered toilet paper holder. If the roll is located near the sink or in an area where water can splash, the outer layer of paper may regularly be touched by wet hands. A holder with a cover creates a simple protective layer above the roll and helps keep the roll more stable when you pull the paper. This is not a required upgrade. If the current location always stays dry and clean, you do not need to change anything. But if the roll is regularly exposed to water, the cover can automatically perform a small protective action that you do not have to remember after every use. In the shower area, the question of where the water will go becomes even more important. You turn off the water and see hundreds of droplets on the walls, glass door, and joints. Because they look harmless, you allow them to dry on their own. But when water evaporates, some mineral residue remains on the surface. After several days, white marks and areas that dry slowly become more difficult to clean. A small squeegee hanging inside the shower changes the moment when the problem is handled. After turning off the water, you pull the squeegee from top to bottom across the glass door, flat walls, and the areas that hold the most water. The water moves toward the floor and the drain before it can dry on the surface. You do not need to squeegee the entire bathroom perfectly. Just a few passes over the wettest areas can help the surfaces dry faster. The squeegee needs to stay exactly where it is used so the sequence feels natural. Turn off the water, clear the surfaces, and hang the tool back up. A weekend cleaning task becomes smaller, not because you scrub harder, but because the water is handled before it has time to leave too much residue behind. This does not replace ventilation or regular cleaning, but it can reduce the amount of standing water and the amount of buildup you need to handle later. The principle of creating a path for water to leave also applies to towels. When a towel is folded over a bar that sits close to the wall, the outer surface is exposed to air, but the inner surfaces are pressed together. After several hours, The edges may be dry while the folded section remains damp. A good hook or towel bar needs to hold the towel far enough away from the wall for air to move across both sides. The towel should also be spread open instead of being bunched up or folded too thickly. If there is not enough room for a long bar, 2 separate hooks may help spread the towel more widely. A rack that extends away from the wall may also work better than a hook that presses the entire towel against the surface behind it. You do not need to buy a new system immediately. After using the towel, open it completely and hang it somewhere where it does not touch the floor, does not become trapped between a door and a wall, and does not sit underneath another wet towel. If your towels still regularly develop a damp smell, check the ventilation, how frequently they are washed, and whether they truly dry completely between uses. A very small gap can allow the air to perform the work that the previous hanging method was preventing it from doing. The squeegee handles water on the walls. But another area is often allowed to build up throughout the entire week, even though small marks can be cleaned in a few seconds while they are still fresh. That area is around the toilet. In many homes, cleaning the toilet is treated as a separate chore. You wait until cleaning day and then deal with everything that has collected over several days. Because the job is unpleasant, it is easy to delay. The longer you delay it, the more time the next cleaning session requires. A quick reset system means keeping a suitable cleaning spray and a dedicated cleaning cloth near the toilet, but out of the reach of children and pets. When you notice a water droplet, fingerprint, or small mark on the seat or exterior surface, you clean it while it is still fresh, instead of leaving it until the weekend. You do not need to wipe the toilet after every use. The goal is simply to handle small marks when you notice them. Use a product that is suitable for the surface, follow the instructions on the label, never mix cleaning chemicals, and keep the cleaning cloth separate from cloths used in other areas. A quick reset does not replace regular cleaning. It only prevents the next cleaning session from beginning with several days of buildup. I once believed that an easy-to-clean bathroom was simply a bathroom with stronger cleaning products, but in many cases, the bigger difference is how quickly water and stains are handled. That leads to the final change: moving bathroom bottles and tools off the floor. Shampoo bottles, body wash, and brushes are often placed directly on the floor or along the edge of the bathtub. Water collects underneath them and creates damp rings that are difficult to see. When you clean the floor, you have to pick up every item, wipe underneath it, and put it back. If there are too many bottles, simply thinking about moving all of them may be enough to make you delay cleaning. A hanging basket, a draining shelf, or a suitable mesh bag can keep the items you use off the floor. Water can drain downward instead of remaining trapped beneath the bottles. The floor also becomes one flat surface that can be wiped or cleared without moving obstacles first. But do not use a hanging system to hold every product you have ever purchased. Only keep the products you use regularly in that area. Nearly empty bottles, products that do not work for you, and backup supplies should be handled separately. If the basket contains so many bottles that water cannot drain, or if it becomes difficult to remove for cleaning, it has lost its original purpose. Whether you use suction hooks, a metal shelf, or a mesh bag, the system is only useful when it is secure, appropriate for the weight, and easy to clean. The final goal is not a bathroom with nothing inside it. The goal is a bathroom where water can travel to the drain instead of remaining trapped beneath a maze of bottles. The 15 changes in this video look very different from one another. Some are physical objects. Others are simply new ways of arranging things you already own. But all of them are based on the same idea. A small problem becomes exhausting when it is allowed to move, accumulate, or wait for you to return. Vegetable scraps remain on the cutting board. Food particles travel deeper into the sink. Lightweight items take up shelf space, while the open area above them is wasted. Water remains on the walls, underneath bottles, and inside the folds of towels. A home that is easy to maintain does not require you to watch everything more carefully. It simply creates clear stopping points so trash, water, and household items do not travel farther than necessary. You can begin without buying everything on this list. Tonight, take 3 small steps. First, choose one recurring point of friction. A cutting board that is always covered in scraps, a sink that is difficult to clean, a cabinet that lacks usable space, or a bathroom where water is always left behind. Second, place one helpful object exactly where the problem appears, using something you already own first. It could be a bowl beside the cutting board, a towel hung more widely, or a small basket that collects the items currently sitting on the floor. Third, test the system for 7 days. Keep it only if it truly removes at least one movement, one decision, or one task that you would otherwise need to return to later. Do not try to fix your entire home in one evening. One small system that is used every day is more valuable than 10 products that are purchased and then left inside a cabinet. A quiet home is not a home that never becomes messy. It is a home that does not turn every sign of daily life into a new chore. You do not need a more perfect home. You need a home that knows how to keep small tasks in their proper place. Subscribe to The Quiet Home and watch the next video on your screen to discover more Japanese-inspired home systems that can help you clean less and live more easily in your own home.